Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, GDG community, for having me. As I start, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land of Gadigal people of the Eora Nation that we're meeting on today, and I pay my respects to the elders past and present. So today's topic is, career, and I did say leadership in cybersecurity, but I think given the audience we have as well, it might be worthwhile to talk a little bit about what career options there are in cybersecurity and then ahead to leadership. So this is me, Barsha Karki. I manage a team of pre-sales engineer at Zscaler. I've been at Zscaler almost 2 years now. I'm originally from Nepal. I did my bachelor's of engineering studies in electronics engineering from Nepal, and I came to Australia. I completed my master of engineering studies in telecommunications and master of engineering management. So that's me. Here's my LinkedIn QR code if anybody wanted to connect with me. I'll also share the slides with the organizers and they can share it as well. I'll have the references of materials that I use as well throughout the presentation. A bit of a quick agenda for today, a bit about me. I'll talk about career in cybersecurity. I'll split it into two ways. How does career in cybersecurity look like when you actually look at an organizational structure versus technology? So I'll split that into two. And leadership in cybersecurity. And as I go through them, I'll also kind of share a little bit about me and my journey. I think that would probably help you relate a little bit and see where you see yourself and your journey as well. I've put in Q&A for the end, but feel free to raise your hand if you want to at any point. I have half an hour? Is that right? Yeah. So I'll try to finish it within 20-25 minutes, but feel free to raise your hand and ask me questions. Does that sound all right? Yeah, cool. As I start, right, like with career and with leadership, I watched this video. Has anybody seen this video from Barack Obama? So I ran into this video a few years ago, and it reminded me of when I finished uni and I got a scholarship to do my bachelor's degree from the top university in Nepal. I came to Australia, did my master's. I got in for a graduate role in a very competitive environment, and I thought, I'm it. I can do anything, right? And I got my graduate role, and I was like, I can do my manager's job. You know what? I can do the director's job, right? And that was the energy you have when you've done so much, you've put in so much. And I think over the years, now, after about 15 years of experience in the industry, now I realize I actually don't know too much. I think it takes experience to kind of realize, like, as you know more, you realize you don't, how much do you not know? So I wanted to share this video because I think, this is Barack Obama advising young people, but I think that's very relevant for anybody at any stage in their career, especially if you're trying to get like very juicy projects and getting involved in important projects. So I will play this right now. And if I can.
Just learn how to get stuff done. And what I mean by that is, I've seen at every level people who are very good at describing problems, people who are very sophisticated in explaining why something went wrong or why something can't get fixed. But what I'm always looking for is, no matter how small the problem or how big it is, somebody who says, let me take care of that. If you project an attitude of whatever it is that's needed, I can handle it and I can do it, whoever's running that organization will notice, I promise. And which is why I think with young people, you don't always need to be so impatient asking for the plum assignment. A lot of times the best way to get attention is whatever is assigned to you, you are just nailing. You're killing it, because people will notice, oh, that's somebody who can get something done.
I hope that relates, and I think sometimes we're in a project and we think, oh, I don't know where this fits into the bigger picture. But if you are, if you're working on a smaller project, but you get it done, and you're reliable, you're accountable, and you deliver what you say you deliver, you will get opportunities to do, be part of bigger projects, right? Just something to think about, and I will refer to it at the end of the towards the end of my talk as well.
Just learn how to
no,
get
stop.
stuff done.
Stop. Okay. So without further ado, let's go into career in cybersecurity. I'll talk a little bit about my journey. As I said, I did bachelor's in electronics engineering, master's. My first role was at Alcatel-Lucent. So I'm a network engineer at heart, like routing, switching, all of that. I'm showing my age because Alcatel-Lucent doesn't exist anymore. It's part of Nokia. They exist, but and that was my first graduate role. Hard break after that because I was made redundant, right? And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? My life's ending. But anyway, after that, I actually came in across this role called pre-sales engineering. Anybody here knows what a pre-sale engineering role is? Right? 2 hands up. Great. This is good. But do you want to shout out what? Yeah, technical sales, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And coming out of uni, I actually did not know a role like that existed. I was thinking I'll finish my, studies and I'll go sit at my cubicle, work on projects, deliver stuff. But pre-sales role is where you actually work on selling the product. So you work with salespeople, you're technical, you need to understand what the organization that you're working for, and all organizations exist to sell, right? It's either product or services. And that's where they make the money. And that's when they've sold the product or services is when it gets to delivery team and we run projects, right? So that's at the start of any organization. And so I got introduced to a solutions engineering job. And that was my first SE job in Equinix, which is a data center. After that, I thought, after 3 years at Equinix, I thought, well, security was up and coming. Everybody was talking about it. Security was generally before, it was just like, maintaining access control lists. It was part of firewall. Whereas over the years, it's become its own big thing and a lot of investment is going on, right? And it's really about securing your data, not leaking your data, making sure, you're not exfiltrated. So I went to Checkpoint as a security pre-sales engineer, also like selling Checkpoint hardware and their services. After that, so Checkpoint was still layer 3 if you think about OSI layer. And then I ramped up to layer 7 up the stack. So I went to Akamai, who's very much around application security, web application firewall, CDN. So it was a bit of a learning curve from layer 3 to layer 7, right? Because I don't like coding. And I know I'm probably not saying the right thing here, but I don't mind configuring a little bit, but I'm not a software coder, right? But I understand it because I did C and C++. Okay, so I've got a little bit of credibility there. So that was that, and then I went to NetApp. Anybody heard of NetApp? Yeah. So they're a storage vendor, right? So I'm a network engineer. Then I went to security and application. And then NetApp tapped me on the shoulder and they said, hey, we're interested in having a chat. Would you be willing to work for us? I'm like, I don't know anything about storage. I fix the pipes. I don't care where the data goes and sits, right? But it was the first time in my career that somebody actually wanted to have a chat with me and bring me into the team for what I brought. Like I knew cloud, I knew security, I knew networking. And it was a really good feeling, to be wanted for what you bring rather than what you know about their product. And they were willing to train. And each of the job that I've done, it's very different technology. There's been a constant learning curve, which I think I kind of enjoy. And my challenge to my manager every time is like, if I'm amazing at my job, I'm out of here. So his job is to keep me challenged, right? So NetApp also, I wasn't sure how long I was going to spend time in because storage, boring, all of that. But I was there for 3 years because it was challenging. And last year, February, so it's almost coming to 2 years now, very different again. I got an opportunity to apply for an engineering manager role, so pre-sales engineering manager role for APJ, so Asia Pacific Japan. I led a team of 7 people, 2 in Japan, 2 in Australia, 2 in Singapore, and 1 in India. And we've just started our fiscal year, so now my role is focused just on ANZ only. But it was a fantastic opportunity for me to go from an individual contributor to leadership. But all of the experiences that I've gained so far actually helped. And I think leading an APJ team, probably because of my cultural background as well, I think that also helped, right? So I wanted to take you through that just so that you understand a little bit of where I'm coming from. Does that make sense? Can you relate to it, right? And see if there's anything that you can take away for yourself. So that was my career. And also, like, I'm a network engineer, but I could have been a software engineer. I could have, had internships somewhere else and done something else. I've got people in my team who did literature for their bachelor's degree, right? I think there's space for everyone to learn technology and be really good at it if you're passionate about it and if you're willing to put in the work. And people see that. People see that these days, right? So career in cybersecurity, I want to take you through organizational structure, like what does career look like at different steps in an organization, and also technology stack, right? There's so many technologies. And we come across all of that, right? Microsoft, AWS, GCP. I talked about Akamai, Checkpoint, so many technology stack. And I think I thought it would be good to kind of give an overview of what career opportunities in cybersecurity exist in that. So let's look at the organizational structure. I Googled it, right? It's not, I didn't make it up. So entry level, a lot of us would, start as an intern or a grad. Or you could start as a full-time, engineer. But, the next step, individual contributors, when you've got, like, for me, the graduate role was 2 years. And then I became a full-time, in a specific team. Where for the 2 years, I did a rotational graduate, 6 months each. And then, there's the manager there. So you could actually then become a manager, or you could become a leader without managing team. And it's entirely up to you. What drives you? Are you passionate about helping other people? I mean, that's a rhetorical question, but are you more, interested in speaking with people daily, or would you bring thought leadership instead? And that's entirely what interests you, right? So that manager level and director level and even vice president level could be you managing a team of people, or you are an individual contributor, but you're going up the rank. Right. And then, the CTO, CEO there, and that's where you go. You could start, run a startup or run another company. As we see, it's a, musical chairs, right? In technology, we see one CEO and then they're in the next company. So that's, an organizational chart in what different levels of roles are available. And that's, you could be an entry level, could be a graduate role, but then, at individual contributor, you could be a software engineer, you could be a pen test person, you could be an SC, like the team that I manage. And it's very common, the roles across whichever vendor you work for or whichever company you work for. Is that landing? Is there any questions? Is that good? Yeah. So this is also a Googled thing, I did not, and I'll share the references as well. I don't think I'm allowed to share my internal one, so I Googled it. But Jay Chaudhary is our CEO, and you can see, many different VPs reporting into him. I come into, so bottom right, the second row, Mike Rich, so CRO, Chief Revenue Officer. I come into his organization because that's the revenue generation portion of its sales, pre-sales, right? And then you can see there's software development, there's emerging products, we're acquiring new companies or we're working on new technologies. So that's emerging, customer success officer. So there's so many different roles, and you could be an engineer in any of that, or you could be a manager in any of that, or you could be a thought leader in any of that, right? And move up the stack. So that was around organization. I wanted to now touch on career based on technology. So that organizational structure would be very much replicable in any technology stack you go to. And here's, some logos that we see. We use them as us users. A lot of companies that you work for would also use them, right? And this flow, this is something that we use to talk to our customers at Zscaler. And I've really taken a view of data, right? Where does data flow? Because data is very important. And so if you think about post-COVID and the focus, we've got data sitting everywhere. It could be on your endpoint, like devices like this. It could be in your headquarters, branch offices and remote workers. I don't know if anybody remembers, or you're too young, but call centers and stuff. People used to deploy all the agents and everything, and then ship out the laptop before. Right? And that's a lot of things to manage. So, like remote workers could be shipped out a machine, right? Like call center in the Philippines, for example. And now your corporate data, like, the applications that you're using could sit in your private or public cloud, right? Amazon, Google, Microsoft. It could be any of the SaaS applications, Office 365. So that's where all your data is going. And, and you've got web apps as well. So as you can see, it's so scattered, right? And the reason that we need uniform security is, if we were using VPN, or in the traditional world, you would have castle and moat. You've got your network, you connect to the LAN and you connect to the network, and that is protected. You've got firewall and stuff. But now you can't put firewall in the cloud everywhere, or uniformity of it. You need to have the same level of security wherever your data is. And that is where, like, if we're talking about technology stack, you can see there's so many technologies, like this IDP that we talk about, right? Okta, Google IDP, or Zero ID, uses endpoint, right? CrowdStrike, for example. And then, headquarters, you've got the firewalls, you've got SD-WAN stuff in the headquarters. Now, how do you then replicate the same level of security when you're using Office 365, making sure it doesn't leak, the data doesn't leak? The same level of security in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, right? And like, you can buy, for example, each hyperscaler has their own set of security products, but generally they provide security for their own products only. And if you are using hybrid multi-cloud, how do you then create that uniform sort of security across hybrid multi-cloud? Same for your on-premises versus public cloud as well. So I think this is just to give you an idea of why to think about where you would be interested when you think about career in security and leadership, right? And I think when we talk about leadership, I think everybody is a leader in their own right. You don't need to have a title to be a leader, but I think there's so many opportunities here. And I guess this is where, we kind of bring the idea of zero trust. Like traditional network approach is, you trust but verify. You connect to the LAN and you punch in the password, you're trusted, and then you verify. Whereas today, zero trust is never trust, always verify. Even if you're connected to the LAN, you're not trusted. Even if you're working from the beach, you're not trusted. Even this device is trusted now, the next time I try to connect to my internal applications of the company, I'm not trusted. So that's the shift. And Google, just a bit of a side information, Google has had fantastic involvement in the creation and in adaptation of zero trust. Like, there was a massive cyber attack called Operation Aurora around 2009, where a lot of companies, including Akamai, including Google, were attacked. It was almost like a state attack sort of thing. And then Google came up with this framework called Beyond Call, right? And zero trust was already coined by a researcher in Forrester a long time ago, but that's when, since 2009, 2010, is when it's kind of being deployed a lot more. And I talk about zero trust because Zscaler is, we talk about zero trust. And I guess, so the whole point, just what Zscaler does is we kind of create a cloud Zscaler zero trust exchange in the middle. We connect everything coming in. We do SSL inspections, so looking at all the requests, opening a packet, making sure there's no attack vectors, or if there is, what do? We allow, we maybe deceive, we send them to a honeypot, and then allow for the connection, right? So, I mean, with all the logos that I've used, we know a lot of those logos, and we use a lot of them, right? So I think, what I'm trying to get you to think about is, if you wanted a career in security, what technology are you interested in, and what you could look at the different organization level, right? So I guess, and that's that. What technology are you interested in? And Jason, I was talking to him as to prepare for this, and he said maybe how do we start in cybersecurity? Probably is a good place to start, and I will share the link of this. But I think there's quite a lot of courses, online courses. I was talking to somebody that I mentored a little while ago, and he was telling me how he hacked his high school Wi-Fi because they were blocked to a certain website, and he hacked it and he shared with everyone, right? But his eyes just lit up when he said that. And he was talking to me, he was asking me about pre-sales role. And I'm like, hang on a sec, like I can see that you're so passionate about how you did that, and he wants to do more of that, right? So there's benefit in following what you're passionate about for a couple of years and then deciding what you want to do next. Or if there's an opportunity, grab it, right? Just like I did for NetApp or Akamai, a couple of things. I'm not going to go through all of this, but, online resources, courses, mentor is pretty good, right? Like the networking and mentoring around this sort of environment is really good because you can pick brains of other people. And I think in technical, I'm not generalizing, but we're not very good at asking for help, right? And sometimes it's okay to just say, hey, you're doing this amazing. Can I pick your brains? Can I take you out for coffee? And a lot of people say yes, right? So if you see somebody doing awesome and you want to follow their career path, ask them. And if you get a no, ask another person. Easy, right? There's plenty of them. So with that, any questions so far with career? Okay. So let's shifting gears a bit to leadership in cybersecurity. My path to leadership, I have been mentoring. So I'm a UTS graduate, alumni. I've been mentoring with UTS Lucy Mentoring Program since 2013. So this is my 10th year of mentoring a student every year. For the longest time in my career, I did not ever want to be a manager. But as I went through mentoring in the last few years, I was like, hey, I really enjoy working with people and helping them sometimes see their own potential and helping them achieve their goals. And so that's when I started putting it out there that I want to become a manager. I did not even know if that was clear. But once I started communicating about it, there were people going, hey, there's a role that you could apply. So put yourself out there with your passion, with what you want to do. So I would really, give credit to the mentoring that I'm doing the leadership role right now. I have a couple of hobbies. That was me busking very long time ago. I do take, music class every Saturday or Sunday, whichever day generally. I've been doing that for 7-8 years, not to perform to anyone, but just, something else I do. During COVID, I actually ran a conversation series on LinkedIn. And that kind of established that leadership sort of thing because I was bringing a lot of people from Checkpoint, Akamai, all of these networks and my mentors to come and talk to me about what they are good at. I wasn't talking about what, NetApp is doing great or Zscaler was doing great. I was bringing thought leadership. And that put me in a really good spotlight to say, hey, she's bringing this and she's got this network, right? So that also, I think, helped in my journey to leadership, like a formal leadership role as well. I played soccer. That's just a random fact for a little while. And then, I finished at NetApp and that All About Data show, I ran on NetApp platform for 3 years. Now somebody else is running it, which is great. And then when I finished, I joined Zscaler. Mahapula used to be the VP of Global Solutions Consulting at Akamai. Then she moved to Cloudflare, and now she's recently moved to, I forget. But Cloudflare and us, we're competitors. Cloudflare and Zscaler are competitors, right? But she reached out to me, and she's like 3 layers above me, right? But she reached to me and she said, Barsha, you did such a fantastic thing with all about data. Do you think we can do something together? And I was like, no, we're competitors. We can't do anything. I'll help you. But then, we thought we don't have to bring Cloudflare or Zscaler into that. It's two people passionate about bringing conversations and sharing resources with people who are starting out or trying to change careers in security. So that partnership started Mahabarsha Show, right? So we started it this year, and I think it's the point here is really, like what drives you, and sometimes it's not finding your cause or finding your purpose. I think you grab the opportunity that you see at that time. And if you help people, I think that kind of helps yourself, and that's what's happened in my career. So this is my APJ team. Sandra and Della are in Sydney, Kubasan, Kondasan, Japan, Roland and Eva in Singapore, and Niharika and Akshit in India. This was us in Vegas last year. Obviously, I used to manage this team. Now this year, I'm only focusing on ANZ, but I thought that was a good photos. There were some good photos, so thought to share that. I guess, as we kind of go into leadership, and we, in the earlier slide as well, I said mentors, right? Find people who you can learn from or ask questions. But I think for the longest time in my career, I was always going, oh, I need to find mentor. Can you be my mentor? And I think there's very, we need to be aware of the distinction between coach, mentor, and sponsor, right? I think the first thing starting out, graduate role and a few years in as, early in career, mentor was what I was looking for. But over the time, I've realized that it's not just mentor. Like, you need a coach. Coach is somebody who talks to you. They're digging things out of you. It's your idea. They're just providing space for you to think it through, and, you're driving it. Mentor is somebody who probably has done what you wanted to do. So they've got experiences that they can share. It might help you shortcut a little bit. You've still got to do the journey, but you might learn a bit faster. So they're talking with you, right? Because of the experiences. And sponsor is something that you need to be really, really aware of. To Barack Obama's point, when you get stuff done and somebody recognizes that, that's the sponsor. Generally, every time you do a project and somebody's saying nice stuff about you to somebody else, so they talk about you. Sponsors talk about you when you're not in the room. And you want to be aware of those people, because they will bring you in and they will expect certain things of you. And when you deliver, they have higher expectations of you. And so, they're actually putting their reputation online for you. And they're talking about you in rooms that you're not there or you don't have access to. And so we got to be very aware of the sponsors. They are, if you think about it, you probably have sponsors in your life, but the distinction, they're not just mentors. They're people who are backing you up, right? Yeah, so coach is expert, like they get you thinking. Mentor, it's like supporting, encouraging, sharing experiences, and sponsor is like really advocating for you. I guess, so talking about leadership in cybersecurity, I guess why leadership? My invitation to you is, if you're thinking about leadership, not just in cybersecurity, anywhere, is why do you want to be in that leadership role? Like I said, everybody is a leader in their own right. What does leadership mean to you? I invite you to inquire around what your leadership philosophy is. Mine is to be of service. I exist for my team to be successful. And I ultimately become successful, but that is not my goal. My goal is to bring my team up. And when they become successful, I become successful. That is, my leadership philosophy is to be of service. So think about why leadership. Why would you want to be in leadership? And be intentional about your brand. I told you about me mentoring, and it wasn't intentional, but over the years, me running the show, the conversation series and all of that, now I'm becoming more intentional and more aware of how do my actions portray me in the industry, to my colleagues, to my network. Leadership is like anything, it's a journey of becoming, right? I guess why cybersecurity? It's an honorable cause, right? We're stopping bad people from doing bad things to good people. It touches everybody's life. If we use mobile, we use laptop, people get scam calls, right? And it's always evolving, like you cannot know everything today and there's something else tomorrow. So it's an arms race between bad and good people. So it will always keep you challenged if you like challenged, and it's a very lucrative industry, right? You how many data breaches have we heard of, and how many millions and billions of dollars do we hear about? So it's not as many resources as needed in cybersecurity, and there's a lot of companies that are willing to invest. Like when I started graduate role, it was more about only bigger companies giving back. Whereas now there's so many companies, startups, and they have a lot of opportunities and they see it different. It's like we're investing, but we know we're creating the leaders of new generation, right? So it's a very lucrative industry because there's not as many resources. And he's my manager now, but he was a mentor and he's also a massive sponsor of me right now at Zscaler. He recommended me this book, and I was reporting to him at the time. But Go Giver, right? Especially in technology, and at this day and age, we think about go getter, like go getter. Whereas go giver is you give without an expectation of any return, and it talks about the 5 laws of stratospheric success, and I really recommend you this book. If you were thinking about that leadership journey and what it means to you, I think it's, stories and stuff. It's a very thin book, really easy read. But that would be the recommendation that I leave you with. Yeah, and this is the last slide, I promise. I'm not a developer, right? So me being invited to these events, I'm very nervous because you guys are very smart. You're a lot smarter than I am. But I think I really like this quote from Audre. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid. Because I think what I thought I would bring is the journey, and it's not been constant or linear, and it's been through different technologies. So if there were anything that I leave you with, I think anything is possible, right? And think about what your leadership philosophy is, why you want to do it, where you want to do it, and go get it. Thank you. Questions, anyone? Yes.
Not sure exactly. But you talked about this idea of sort of, I guess, sort of you had the traditional pyramid of going up through manager.
Yeah.
Talk about also that sort of go up, sort of be the kind of leadership role, but actually managing
a team,
being responsible for people.
Yes.
And, be their boss.
Yes.
That's sort of the way I'd like to go in my career.
Yeah.
The way I am going.
Yeah.
But my career worked another 20, 25 years at least.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe talk about sort of that direction. So I think kind of it's a bit unusual, I guess, sort of, I just said 40. And what tends to happen, the typical thing is a career engineer, but to your mid-30s, and then you sort of stop doing that and become a manager. I want to keep doing that.
Yes.
But I still like being part of building solutions as well.
Yes.
But seeing the whole way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess any advice on sort of taking that sort of path forward and make it sustainable over the longer term?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, we have quite a lot of, so one role I can think of is field CTO. So you're not CTO at the global level, like it will take, like your journey to get there, but at an individual contributor level, but you're a very senior person, is a field CTO, which means you're an advisor and bringing your technical expertise to very important customer meetings. And that could be in delivery side of things or pre-sale side of things. So you're talking to like banks, for example, and you bringing your level of experience. If you work with banks or if you work with retail or whatever your field of expertise is, and you say, I've seen this before, and you know what? I've recommended this, and they did that, and that was the result. So you're bringing that credibility And that role is very real. Like we have so many field CTOs at Zscaler, even within ANZ, and they're not managers. Yeah, and that you can be, a senior, a CTO or a director CTO, like, and then you can go up that way. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Any other question? So, or to go for jobs. So yeah, okay. Initially the first few roles that I applied was like I think Seek. I haven't had to apply for too many jobs. Like they've reached out to me, but I think LinkedIn is really good. I would recommend, like, when I don't know how many people use Seek now. I mean, that was the thing when I first started, but I think LinkedIn is really good, like the jobs listing on LinkedIn. But I would recommend, if you see a job and you're either thinking of applying, or pick up the phone and call the recruiter. And that makes the biggest difference, because I work really closely with the recruiter in my role. If somebody picks up the phone and tells them that, hey, can you tell me about this role? I'm thinking of applying. Or if you've applied and say, I've applied, when can I touch base? That puts you in front of hundreds of applicants. So irrespective of and they generally don't just post on LinkedIn. They would probably have a few different platforms. But I think LinkedIn is a great start these days. Yeah. Are you talking about somebody in general? Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, how can you be somebody that people come to rather than some other people? How can you be better than position yourself? Yeah. In my career, I've changed so many jobs, right? But we're selling to the same companies, because so if you think about Woolworths buys from everywhere. Qantas buys from everywhere. So whichever vendor you go to, you're selling to the same organizations. Yes, example Woolies, right? And so when you've worked with one customer, you actually build that relationship. So, and whichever other company you go to, they know you. And if you've built that trust, they will want to work with you. And that person in Woolies will go to Coles and they will reach out to you. It's a very connected world. And, especially in security, it's a very niche, very well-connected world. And all the CISOs, like Chief Information Security Officers, are very well connected. If somebody has a breach, they know it. They're on WhatsApp. So you work somewhere, you build your credibility, you build your brand, and people will want to work with you. Yeah. Customer, yeah, because you're delivering to the customer, right? Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great point. You thought about me, but I think a lot of the times we're so much in our own head, we forget, it's for somebody else. That's a great point. Great question. Thank you. Any more? Yes.
Thanks for sharing, but I still you switch different roles. But when you switch, there must be a period that you're struggling with no knowledge of all the gap between the old role and new role. How you solve this out, particularly during your when you enter into the leadership positions, that must be a little bit because it's responsibility really different from different. How you solve out that?
Yeah.
Overcomes that period.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, I felt like a complete failure. First time I started at security, I was a network engineer. I'd done data center. Joined Checkpoint, I was like, I don't know anything. And I think there's a little bit of period where you have to do quite a lot to ramp up. But it also depends on it's not entirely up to you either. Each company that you join, they have an onboarding program. They will have, even if you go from like Zscaler to my competitor, I will still have to relearn because they do different things. There might be feature functionalities difference. So there's always learning. So part of it is you, but part of it is also the organization you're going to, speak to your manager, tell them what you're good at or what your gaps are, and make a plan. I think planning and having a goal is always good, and track yourself, right? Be honest. I don't think anybody expects anybody to know everything when they join. With so much technology, like even at Zscaler, we acquired 2 companies and it's completely different. In the last 6 months, there's so much to learn. So nobody expects you to know everything, but I think it's you bringing your passion, but also the support structure that you have around you. And if you don't feel like you are supported, you need to ask. Yeah. And for my leadership role, I think even though it was new because I had been mentoring, what worked for me is I made it all about the team. Like I listened to the team and I was working to make them successful. And I think over time, I trusted them, but I needed to gain their trust. And with me just thinking about them, I think I earned that trust over time. And now we can have, a really good conversation. They can tell me if something's not right or, if something they need to work on. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Are we okay with time?
Just quick.
Yeah.
If you have questions, will you be sneaking around?
I think I'll have to leave in about 15 minutes. Yeah.
Got a bit of break. We just need to set up for the next call.
Okay, cool.
We've got a bit of break.
Yep. Thank you.